But I
Y'all
showed,
keep it, or you can zoom if you want to.
what Texas name, played the dobro out here. Well, I'll tell you,
Okay,
I
it's
can't remember.
7:18. Small crowd tonight because of the cold weather. I'll just mention, some of them were talking just now about the jams and the concerts that are around here. This is Thursday, day after tomorrow night, Saturday night, we'll have the Tinney Chapel music night on this stage up here. And among the performers will be one that Eddie was talking about, Gordon Shoup, who plays guitar and harmonica real well, both of them real well. And singing, he's got a very smooth voice. He's going to be one of the main performers day after tomorrow night here. It starts at 6:30 and ends at 8, 90 minutes. Starts on time and pretty much ends on time. So it's free, open to the public. So tell your friends or show up yourself. Let's see, we've got, I can't think of anything else going on here upcoming real soon. And I don't have any announcements from anybody. I didn't get any emails from anybody reminding me to, other than from Linda. And Linda called and said that she had been sick, but she's okay now. She came out of the house and picked up the church money that Peggy had picked up for her. Normally Linda is the financial secretary for the church, and she picks up the weekly offering, puts it in the bank, and she'd been sick and hadn't been over until today. And she said that Ronnie is now sick, so neither one of them was going to be here tonight because Ronnie's sick. Ronnie's okay. She's staying to take care of him. And I didn't hear from anybody else, whether they'd be here or not, or with any announcements or anything like that. Other than to remind you that we'll have, and Eddie Owen will be the sound, in charge of sound for Saturday night, starting at 6:30 on the program, as he always is. And he kindly set up this microphone here for our speaker tonight, and so that we can all hear better. So, unless someone else has an announcement you'd like to make, either about Native American or something else, does anybody want to make an announcement of any kind before we start the program? Okay, our program tonight is Cherokee Myths and Legends. And this is a long-time contributor to this program for our Native American Fellowship, Linda Fox. She's done a number of them. And to remind you that we'll be filming it, putting it on YouTube, as we do all of them. And you can tell your friends if they miss this one tonight to look for it sometime tomorrow on YouTube under my channel. I put all of the stuff that I film on that one channel, so it's whether it's Native American or Tinney Chapel sermons or music night programs or whatever it may be. And you can Google those. I've found that if you Google something like Linda Fox, Native American Fellowship, and it'll bring up at least one of her programs, and if you put a date on it, it'll bring up the one for that date. So it's easier, I found it's easier than going to the YouTube. Most people just go to YouTube, www.youtube.com, and then search for whatever person or program they're looking for. And that works, but it's a little shorter, I've found. Just go to Google and put whatever it is you're looking for, Native American Fellowship, Linda Fox, and then the date, and it'll come up with that date. If you don't put the date, it'll bring up Linda Fox at Native American Fellowship. It may or may not. Probably will be the most recent date. if you don't put in a date. But then if you want to go back and hear one of her programs from 5 years ago or something like that, you can just put in a different date. And same for everything else. Tinney Chapel Music Night, if you put in January 20, you'll get the one that's coming up day after tomorrow night. That's the way it works. When everything's working well, that's the way it works. Okay, tonight we're going to hear about the Cherokee myths and legends from Cherokee herself, Linda Fox. You may remember some months ago she did a program on the Chickamauga Cherokee tribe, and has done a number of programs over the years for us in beadwork and art, painting, just a numerous, wide variety. She has what a lot of people call a broad body of work, and we're going to hear another angle of that tonight. Cherokee myths and legends. You ready to enthrall us?
I've been cramming.
You're gonna be able to sit there?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand up though.
Well,
that long.
we can bring the microphone
Yeah,
over.
I really don't think I can stand up.
Let me move some of this stuff.
I'm not real organized tonight. Ellie called me and she said, "Are you doing the program tonight?" And I said, yeah.
Okay, that stuff in the way.
So I'm working on thinking about where all this stuff is that I wanted to share with you. I got enough that we won't have to worry. We'll be here for a while. Okay. I have collected these from my tribe and different Cherokees I know. I haven't got anything that's out of the history books. I wanted stuff that people actually could give me. And I have things that I won't probably be touching on tonight, but if you're ever interested in it, I have all the prints for making the boards for the stick game that the Cherokees play. Several of their game things that they play with, I have patterns of it and how it was put together and what its purpose was. And then what I was looking for the most, can't find, maybe I'll run into it for the night cover, but I have like for instance, like stories of the Milky Way, Magazine Mountain. These are all stories, but before I start reading these, I want to tell you one that I know by heart that I share with students in the Indian programs in the schools, and they love it. And it's the creation story. And I learned it from our shaman of our tribe when I was back here getting my name, when I still lived in Oregon. And the way this story goes is they were animal people, and they were just flying around in the sky, and they said, "Grandfather, why don't you make us something to stand on?" He said, "Well, why didn't you ask me sooner?" So he said, "I'll tell you what, if you'll take your strongest swimmer and send him down and have him bring back some earth, I'll make you an earth to stand on." So they started collecting up all the different animals and creatures of the universe and started trying to get them to volunteer to go down and do this for them. Well, different ones would volunteer, and they'd go down, and they'd either forget what they went down for, or run out of breath. Everyone that came up had an excuse, and you go through all these different animals. So when I'm doing it in a classroom for kids, you get it really exciting. You tell them different animals and things. And so anyhow, all the time they're asking for volunteers. Every time they ask, Grandma Turtle puts her arm up, and they say, "No, Grandma Turtle, you're too old. You can't do this." you'd go down and drown and never come back. And so anyhow, that it goes along, and every time they needed somebody, she'd volunteer, and they'd tell her no. So they kept going, and nobody was bringing the dirt back to make them earth. So finally they said, okay, we're going to let Grandma Turtle do this. We may be sorry, but we're going to let her do it. So she goes down, and bubbles come up, and bubbles come up, and they all start talking. They said, this is awful. We should never have sent Grandma Turtle down. And so they were all really upset, because there's young people, middle-aged people, and here Grandma Turtle's having to save them. So anyhow, pretty soon she pops up, and she has the dirt. And that's why today Grandma Turtle has cracks in her back. She carried the whole world on her back, because she brought the dirt up, created earth. But that's an ancestry song, a story. So there's some really neat ones. This one's kind of cute too. Some people in the South had corn mills, in which they pounded the corn into meal. And several mornings when they came to fill it, they noticed that some of the meal had been stolen during the night. Since my heart attack, I've been having trouble with my eyes, so you bear with me. They explained the ground and examined the ground and found the tracks of a dog. So the next night they watched, and when the dog came from the north and began to eat the meal out of the bowl, they jumped out on him and whipped him. He ran off howling to his home in the north, with the meal dropping from his mouth as he ran. He left behind a white trail, where now we see the Milky Way, which the Chickamaugas to this day call where the dog ran. Magazine Mountain. The southwest of Russellville, Arkansas, located in the Ozark National Forest, is the highest point of elevation in the state of Arkansas. The elevation is 2,753 feet above the sea level. This is Magazine Mountain, part of the Chickamauga Cherokee home country. It is a beautiful part of Mother Earth to see. The Cherokee name for this mountain is, I don't know, or Sacred Mountain. This is God's gate. The storms that are caused by God coming and going are the cleaners of the storm. For all that is in the path of the storm shall be clean. Legends tell us, go there sometimes, you will feel the presence. Then we have one that is Mother Earth. This is what the Cherokees believe about Mother Earth. Never will I plow the earth. I will be ripping open the breast of my mother. Never will I foul the rivers. I would be poisoning the veins of my mother. Never will I cut down the trees. I would be breaking off the arms of my mother. Never will I pollute the air. I would be contaminating the breath of my mother. Never will I strip mine the land. I would be tearing off her clothes, leaving her naked. Never will I kill the wild animals for no reason. I would be murdering her children, my own brothers and sisters. Never will I disrespect the earth in any way. Always will I walk in the beauty upon the earth, my mother, under the sky, my father, in the warmth of the arms of my sister, through the glow of the moon, by my brother. That's our story of Mother Earth. And what I wanted to find to show you is, I can tell you partly about it, but the letter's even better. It's when you're at a powwow and any feathers fall off of the dancer's regalia, they will stop the powwow and wait for the official to come out to the feather, and he has to do a prayer, that's a special prayer just for that feather, and then they will present it back to the one that lost it. And what the importance of that is the feathers represent fallen warriors. When they have these feathers on their regalia when they're dancing, they are supporting fellow warriors that have died. So out of respect, rather than just grabbing them up, they do a prayer and replace the fallen Indian back to its spot it's supposed to be in. And a little bit about the regalias. Regalia is, each one's personal. What you do is you have, some of the things you do is your different feathers that your tribe uses, different emblems, like for instance, it shows up in the regalia on my men my chiefs that I have painted. They have stories all over. I can tell you the stories about all of the things that's on the regalia because they shared them with me. So what it all amounts to is it's your personal story that you're wearing. And that's why you're not supposed to touch them or photograph them without permission, because it's their own personal story. They choose their colors by their tribe, the feathers. Many things are, the way they're made is all due to things that happen to them, things that have been given to them, things that the tribe actually, everybody does. It's really interesting to sit down and talk to somebody and have them explain to you what, everything on the regalia means. So that's what the story about the regalia and why they're so touchy about people handling it. And what we have going on now is, used to be each tribe had their own specific base for their regalia, but the powwows have caused a problem with that because when they started doing the powwows were for trading. The Indians would dress up and sing and dance and get people's attention to buy their goods, because they'd make up all their things that they wanted to make up, and then that's how they sold them. Well, some of the tribes, what they had for clothing would not excite anybody to see. I mean, it wasn't the best stuff you could ever find, but that's what they had available. So a lot of the tribes have taken on the tribal regalia for the Plains Indians, like the white dresses and all the beadwork on it and stuff. That's the Plains Indian regalia. So many of the tribes have taken on that same regalia and just added their personal things to it for the powwows. But that doesn't mean that's their regalia. Now, I noticed up at Lincoln City in Oregon, they have baskets that they wear on their head. They have these kind of lace, it almost looks like fishermen's nets, lace cloths that hang over their dress. And whenever you see them when you're at a powwow, you know they came from Lincoln City because that's theirs. And several of the others have something that no one else wears. Some of them do the elk teeth and There's just various things that belong to a certain tribe that they carried over. And they're trying to now, more than ever, go back to as close to their own regalia as possible. Because people are interested in how they dressed and how they did things, and not so much into the going to powwow just for a powwow. They're wanting to know the truth and the facts about them. So they have done that, and some places it's more traditional than others. There's things like, it's really amazing because the East Coast and West Coast are so different. On the West Coast, it's lineage. A chief, then it's his next ancestor down. It goes down through ancestors. Here, in this area, clear up north and clear down, they're elected officials, and so it's who they want, not who they're related to. So that's different between the out there and here. Now, out there, the Cherokees sing, drum, dance, and a lot of it's not the traditional way that they do it in our homeland. Now, the Cherokee original way is still carried on here. And for instance, like the older women can only do the slow steps, and then the young girls can do the fancy dance and jingle dress and the different ones like that. Now, the jingle dress is, the story behind the jingle dress is it's more modern, but they do use it out here, and what it is it's snooze can lids that have been twisted and a hole put in them and attached to the dresses to go around in lines. And it's the fight against drug and alcohol that they wear those dresses to support. That's what they're representing when they're out there dancing. And see, most people just think, well, they're just for noise, but they're not. They're representing fighting the drug and alcohol. And so next time you look at a jingle dress,
When we were in the powwow in North Dakota, there was a man holding a little baby about 12. Probably wasn't a year old when they had a jingle dress. We got to take a picture of it. It was so cute.
yeah, they're really neat.
And when they had the little babies, they call it what do they call it?
The diaper,
Anyway, they had all these little,
the diaper dancers, I think.
they would come out and they could walk, but when they heard that drum beating, they were just,
Oh, yeah.
they were dancing.
By the time
So cute.
my great nephew was 3 years old, he can drum an actual drum song, and he does the singing with it. He'll do the high and the low, and he does all of it. He sits there and does that drum, and but his father's a drummer, and he takes him with him. So they take him to the powwows, and all the kids start out real young doing it. They're involved from the beginning, so that's why some of them get so good at it. But yeah, it's fascinating thing when you learn things about the Indian culture that's real, not just what people think it is, because they just have to guess, because the history books don't know. Seriously, they don't. They just wrote there wasn't communication in those days, and so they just seen what they seen and wrote about it, and not always knowing what they were seeing. You know, they were being honest. They wrote what they seen, but they didn't understand or know why what they were seeing was being done. Um, the Native Americans are very ceremonial. They have reason for everything. Things like, I think I touched on this once before, but when I came back for my naming ceremony, to explain naming ceremony, what happens with naming ceremony is you can be born and given any name. But when you have done something that has told your tribe that you have honored it, then they honor you with a tribal name. That's what the naming ceremony is all about. Well, because I paint and teach about my people, they felt that it was time for me to have a naming ceremony. So I went back for my naming ceremony, and in the naming ceremony, it starts out, you have to take everything that you're going to dress in and have on you. You have to take it all, put it on the altar, and it has to be prayed over. Then you go put all your stuff on, and then you have to go out and take limbs off the east side of trees, and you make this circle with these limbs. And in the middle of the circle, you make a mound. And the night before, you have to make 100 tobacco offerings. It's a little square that you put tobacco in and tie a ribbon around it, and it's just a whole bunch of those little offerings. And so you make this pile in the middle, and you put all these offerings on the middle. And then there's north, east, and south stakes put up by the shaman, and there's writings on each one of them, which I couldn't read because it was in Cherokee. But it's just blessing each direction of the universe. Then there's cornmeal comes in from the side to the center, and let's see what else I can remember. Anyhow, you go in and you stand in the center, and the shaman goes and prays at each four corners and reads what's on the stakes. Then he comes back to the spot where the cornmeal comes in, and then he does this ceremony. It's a shield with three sections on it. Each section has things drawn on it, like deities like deer, wolves, bears, different things like that. And so anyhow, I don't know how many of you remember pickup sticks that we used to play years ago. Okay, it's very much like that. They have these colored rocks on this shield that has different things in it. And then they give you these sticks, and they have you hold it in your non-dominant hand, and they pray over them. And then they have you move it to your dominant hand and pray over it. And then you have to take those sticks and you have to throw them at those rocks. And the way the sticks fall, those deities tell them what they want to know. And what happens is one of them has to, the blue one, has to fall on something that represents your new name or your original name. And mine fell on the fox. Okay, that tells him that my year of studies and learning about the tribe and things like that was pleasing to the Great Father, that I was doing the right thing. So anyhow, then they announced my name. They said, then they had me walk out the cornmeal to the edge, and you drink it's grape juice, but it represents the blood. And then they have a jaw that has teeth that are sharpened on it. And used to be they would gouge you until it bled. Now they just bring the blood to the surface, just red scrapes. They scrape both your arms, both your legs. And then, and each one of these has a prayer that goes with it. Then you go back to the center, and they introduce you to the people with your new name. And I have my certificate here of from my shaman. It's my new name when I'm addressing people within my tribe. Sadly, but I can't never where'd it go? I can't never remember. I can't never remember how it's spelled, because it's really strange spelling. But what it means, and it describes on that, I can't believe it's not in here. What it describes on there is, because of my paintings, they feel that I have a way of seeing into the person I'm painting. So my name is Sagandala Agotasti, which means she who sees beyond the blue sky and physical world. In other words, I can see past the surface of a person to grab their feeling to portray it in a painting. So that's what name he gave me. Well, it took a year before corresponding and doing things that they asked me to do before they ever decided on what my name was. But this shield had to prove that the name they picked for me was going to be okay. And it said that it was. Otherwise, we'd had to start all over again. And I mean, you're talking in Arkansas and I'm in Oregon. So, but it was very exciting. I got to see a baby christening. I got to join Indian sisters with my girlfriend that's in the tribe that lives out here. And they do it in the river. We stand in the river, and you have to pick up dirt and make things out of it. And you have to both have the blanket on you as the ceremony goes on, and then what you do is when one's sick, you send the blanket to them. When the other one's sick, you send the blanket to them, and it's a connection. So we have those things.
I was going to say, tell about this on myths about the relatives, sunrise dance.
Yeah, and then I'll go back to some of this. But when I was here, out at the reservation, going through my ceremonies and stuff, we had the sunrise services, and they build this area around of branches, making a circle, and in a circle they have a fire, and people who come to these every year bring their bottle or can or whatever fire they collected the year before, and you always bring the old fire and join it with, ashes, excuse me, the old ashes with the new ashes. So it goes on and on year after year. It's always the mix of the old and the new. So you keep I got a little hot bottle of it, and you take it when you go. But when you go, you don't have any ash when you go. Like me, I had never been there, so I didn't have any. So I had to bring 6 different species of wood from where I lived, and that went into the fire. So it's amazing how many species might be in this fire from people coming from everywhere, because Cherokees are everywhere. Anyhow, it just made me think of something else too. But anyhow, you come up to the circle, and you have to be smoked, and smoking is cleansing. It's you blow the smoke on you. All it represents is it's a cleansing process. So anyhow, you do that, and then you walk in, and you all circle around this fire, And the fire has the 4 points. And each point, one has cornmeal, one has tobacco. There's 4 of them. Cornmeal, tobacco. Oh, right now I can't think of the other 2. But you have to stop at each point. I do know the cornmeal you put on your lips, that's food. The tobacco is in an offering bag, and you offer that to the fire. And what are the other 2? I'm embarrassed, I can't even remember the other 2.
Yeah. The wood from your homeland, and then
I can't remember. If I remember it, I'll tell you. But anyhow, and then you're not allowed to speak unless you're asked to speak. It's total silence. We're talking 200 of us. I mean, huge circle. Okay, then the next thing, the shaman would go one by one around this circle, and you had to ask for a blessing for somebody who had died, somebody who was ill, or somebody that you were deeply worried about. It was your choice. You choose who you wanted to have this sacred prayer done for.
How many people were around this?
200. It was a huge.
Fun.
Anyhow, as you're going around, all of a sudden, I mean, you can feel it. All of a sudden, everybody starts looking at each other, and you start getting chills, and you start feeling strange, and before they're around the circle, everybody's crying. I mean, I truly could stand there and feel my own relatives walking on that land. I knew they had been here prior to me, and it's just so strange. It's like a porthole to heaven, and you're standing there, and you see everything that's gone by or has happened. It was just, I mean, it was the best. I haven't experienced anything like that other than baptism. That was pretty special too. But anyhow, they did the sunrise services. Took forever. We were there all day. Well, we were there 3 days. That service was the only thing that day, and it went and went and went and went. So, I got to experience that. I stayed 2 weeks, so I got to learn a lot about the culture. I now know that what I started to tell you back and got off from is on the West Coast, the women are allowed to do all kinds of things. On the East Coast, they're not. You only sing if you're asked to sing by the shaman or the leader. The older women dance one direction, and the men dance the other direction. Out there, everybody dances the same direction. Out here, your drums are always in the very middle, and anytime you're asked to go out and do something, you have to go out and go completely around the circle, and then do what you're supposed to do and go back. You always circle the drums. On the West Coast, the drums circle the whole dance floor. So visually, there's a tremendous difference in the drums, how they set them up and how they do all of it. So some of it has gotten, like here, they stay pretty original because there's a lot more of them here that are actually from here. Out there, a lot of people have went out there years and years ago, and they only do what they are told by the group out there is right. So when I came back here, I had to totally redo my thinking because I found out a lot of what was being done is not being done right. They don't know they're not doing it right. So my shaman says, it's still okay because they're in their hearts are doing what they feel that they were told to do. So, but anyhow, there's a lot of that goes on, you know, between the two, but it's all very, I don't know, when I'm in ceremonies and things like that, I have just I mean, you just feel like a changed person. You have warmth that you don't have when you're away from your culture. The Cherokees, not just the Cherokees, I say Cherokee because that's what I am. I'm also part Sioux. But the thing of it is they're all of the different tribes that I've been involved with are very spiritual. I've always said that the Native Americans are extremely spiritual. And to explain some of those things, like I had a discussion with a minister that told me I was pagan. And I said, will you take a second? I want to tell you my side of the story. And then I want you to tell me again I'm pagan. He said, okay. So he sat and listened, and he had that cocky attitude like, she don't know what she's talking about, you know. But I told him, I said, okay, here they have churches. Because that's what we have. That's where we go. The Native Americans didn't have buildings. They would pick the tallest mountain in their geographical area because it was closest to the Father. Okay, then also things like they have their burials, their weddings, everything like that is performed there because that's a spiritual spot. They do things like, people say, well, you pray to the fire. No, we don't. You go up to the fire, you walk around, and no, you put your wood on, you walk around, you come back, and you pray, and the smoke takes your prayers up. You're not praying at the fire. It's the carrier of your prayers up. So, and it's things like, see if I can think of something else that really connects things back and forth. Oh, we believe in one person in the sky. Everybody else believes in one person in the sky. So we call him grandfather, great maker, you know, we have different names that we call him. But in our hearts, in this day and age, we believe we're talking about God, the same person everybody else is. We just have a different name. And with the Cherokees, this is not all the tribes, but with the Cherokees, anytime they had anything going on, it could not be done until both the women and the men agreed. The women had a lot to say. A man could not leave a woman. A woman could divorce him, but he couldn't divorce her. They couldn't do anything till they okayed it with the women group. Now, as far as their lifestyle, the women did all the farming and growing of crops. The men did the hunting and bringing the leather and stuff for the younger ones to work on. One of my relatives, clear down to not too awful many years ago, they owned a great big farm, and she was out there on that tractor doing that farm work, and her husband run the creamery. And everybody said, you know, isn't this a little backwards? You're out there working in the fields, driving those big old tractors and stuff, and he's in the other part. And she said, no. She said, I don't want him around the tractors. He'd kill himself. That was her job. And I can remember my grandmother, I have a picture of her with a really strange-looking potato that she grew that got in the newspaper. But some of the gardens my mom and her used to put out were just absolutely marvelous. But that's what they knew how to do, is garden. And I was brought up that way. I can garden and I can just about anything imaginable. Anyhow, so the women were valued. They weren't just nothing. And that's partly why you hear me talk about the Cherokee more than the Sioux. Because my father's tribe, women were less than a dog. And treated that way. And my mom always told my dad, anything you teach them, you better teach them the good stuff, because I don't want none of this bad stuff going on. So it got left up to Mom to raise us to a certain age, and then Dad could add his commentary in there about his tribe when we were old enough to judge it. Not just, it was facts, So we got to get in on both of them, but my dad did a lot of teaching of way things were made, like how things were, different things were made by the Native Americans. And he did teach us a lot of really good things too, but my dad was sweet. But anyhow, only thing he wasn't sweet about is him and Grandma would talk Cherokee he has some Cherokee too. They talked Cherokee back and forth so his kids couldn't tell what they were talking about. And then my dad's, after she died, he quit talking Cherokee at all. But when he was dying, the doctor asked my brother, do you know what he's talking? And Bob says, yeah, he's talking Cherokee. He didn't talk English at all, he talked Cherokee. But you started asking me something.
Oh, I was going to say, for symbolism and when the flag was being put together, as far as the Chickamauga was concerned,
Oh, yeah.
it's this is supposed to be symbolism and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We was told to they needed a flag, and but you want to know what the meaning of all this is for the Chickamaugas, and I think that would really be everything on that symbol means something, and you might put that out, especially for that Chickamauga.
The red part of the, well, this is easier because it's colored. The red part of this is flag that was made. Gary and I made the flag for my tribe.
You're going to have to tell what everything means. It means everything on that.
Okay, what it all amounts to is, what?
You're going to have to read it, because I don't think it's good verbatim.
Yeah, I can. The red part, okay.
It
maybe I don't.
describes everything on there.
Yeah, the yellow of the star is the sun, and I don't know what the red is. The white is the moon. The feather has 7 dots on it for the 7 Cherokee main tribes. It has a cross on the tip. Feathers always have to point upward. Between the sticks at the bottom and the center one is also the same symbols. There's a fire burning in the center, which is the fire of life. This is the blowgun dart and peace pipe. This is the crystal, which is the stone of the Cherokee. And the Chickamauga Cherokee, and down here it says the same thing. And then it has, this is Cherokee wrote in Cherokee syllabary. This is called the, this is the Ukitia, this is the sourwood that they burn in the sacred fire. And this is, the Ukitia is what guards over the sacred fire. This is our treaty dates, and that's Arkansas and Missouri. And this flag is huge. And while I got this up there, I want to show you something. Gary and I they were looking for somebody to do the flag. and we got suggested, and so we took on the job. But we didn't have a long time to do it in. And if I had a long time, I would have rather done it all by hand. But I actually drew this on the yellow with a sew machine, pushing the forward and reverse button. I drew just like if I was drawing with a pencil. I drew this on to the star, and then the star went on the red circle. The stone went on the red circle. Then the red circle went on the white circle, and Gary actually did the lettering for me. And then these yellow pieces here with the eucalyptus and the sourwood, I did those emblems on the yellow and then applied the yellow to the white. And then last of all, I did all of that to the blue. And I mean, I was in tears a lot. I knew I'd never get it done. I was just having a fit. It wasn't going to get done.
Can you tell on that, at that time, that the chief at that time and who was the next chief down, which is pretty
Well,
pretty
we went
unique
over
for
that
this
one
area.
time when I was doing another class.
Because that
I
was-
talked about the
That was
chiefs.
Chief Dole.
Mhm.
was
You
the
was
next-
talking about calling you a pagan.
Yeah.
There in Cartersville, Tennessee. Ellie was, all the Methodist Church in Tennessee had a Native American representative. And we would have 2 meetings a year in Nashville. Ellie and I was the only one with Indian blood in that church. We got a new pastor. But we're not gonna do it, and they had one Sunday set aside every year for Native Americans. Well, it was coming up, and he says, well, we're not gonna do anything. He says, we're not doing anything there because we don't have anybody. And Brady Capps, I remember, he was chairman of the church council. At this time, I was chairman of 3 committees and on 2 others, and I put out our monthly newspaper. So I was pretty active. Well, we got a new minister. We're not doing anything. And Freddie says, stood right up, and he says, Ed and Ellie are Cherokee, and they're our representatives. As I was going out to church, he looked me right in the eye and he said, you are a heathen.
Oh, I hate that when they do that.
Well, on the way home, I told Ellie, I says, you know, if I was going out, Rush called me a heathen. And the more I thought about it, the madder I got. I got home and I got to thinking about it, and I called Freddie and I said, Freddie, as long as Rush is there, I will never darken that door again. He called me a heathen. I says, I guess because I'm part Cherokee, I don't know. I says, it all came up over the Indian stuff. Well, that evening, I bet I got 25 phone calls. I got one from Rush. He was the one that called me the heathen. He was apologizing and begging forgiveness and begging me to come back, and just about everybody in that church was calling. I mean, word spread like a flood. I mean, it just, that phone all evening, and you couldn't, I'd hang up the phone, and before I get my hand off, it'd be ringing again. It'd be somebody else. You can't leave the church. You can't leave the church. We got to have you. We'll get rid of him first, you know.
Yeah, well, see, I've had it happen several times because I do a lot of, I do luncheons and I do schools and all kinds of different stuff. And I've had several times people approach me and let me know that they weren't impressed. And I had to figure out how I was going to deal with it rather than get mad. So what I decided is I needed to pray for them because they didn't know the truth. They didn't know the whole story. They were just going off of rumors and old prejudice type things. So I made up my mind that my job was to pray for them and look at them like, you know, learning the tradition and learning the love and beliefs, the strong beliefs that the Native Americans have can make some people in church sit down and cry, because they really are. I mean, I've met many, many tribes doing this job that I decided to do for my people. Many, many people have no clue. They don't have a clue one. I can usually sit down with somebody that wants to know, and I can point out things that they do that if you look at the Bible, what they're saying in the Bible is what is actually, this is what's actually doing the same thing. Why would they tell somebody to go to a church when they didn't have one? Why would they tell them to do different things that they never ever had? But they were taught by God in a different way. I mean, he taught each person by how they lived, so they would understand. He had his language, because he created all of it. So yeah, it's really neat. I've got a couple other things I wanted to share with you, but I have a letter here that brought me to tears a long time ago. My chief of my tribe, I asked him about doing his picture, and he signed. I have somebody, whoever I'm going to do, I have them sign the approval of doing that, so I don't have to worry about getting sued or anything. But I asked him to tell me something about him, so Gary could make up this write-up that we do about all of the people that we do. We want to tell their story, not something we read out of a history book or somebody tells us. We want them to tell us what they once said about themselves. And then Gary does it in a write-up, and it goes with each one of their cards and each one of their pictures. Because that's allowing them to say what they want to say. Anyhow, this is what he wrote me back when I asked him if he would send me something, telling me something about him. And he wrote this back, and it's wrote to Gary and I both. It says, your phone call was much appreciated. Sounds exciting. The Oregon Trail. I would think twice about saying no to riding along with them. A ride like that would give me the chance to get acquainted with something sort of like the hilltops back in 54 and 55. I will flag sale. Oh, this is when we were talking about making these flags and selling them. The flag sales are slowing now, because we made replicas of the big one, and we were selling them to the each one of the people that's in our tribe, and they were numbered. It was a fundraiser. Okay, where am I at here? The flag sale is slowing down right now. Of course, everything is slow, especially money. Too much insurance, income, tax, and etc. I'm trying to get down here to where it talks about this other. On the card, you judge your judgment. I want to tell about his ceremony. Oh, he gave us his name in the Cherokee symbols. And he says that his name stands for, it says, it's the path and the way of a storm. And so he told about his name, how he got it, and then he goes on and tells about his mom. The path of the mountain storm, as I have my, he goes on and he goes into his ceremony and what he did and what all happened. And then he says, I never shared this or passed this on with anyone before, other than my immediate family. So he was really trusting in me to tell me the story of his life. He said his mother would lay an oak leaf, and when he come home from school, he could tell by that oak leaf which direction she was, so he knew where she was at. But it is, I mean, it's very interesting how they do their different ceremonies and stuff. And his ceremony was years and years before, so. But I thought it was so special that he trusted me enough to tell me all of those things that are so important to us.
So is each person's ceremony different?
If you've done something that is totally different than somebody else, yes, you have part of it's exactly the same, and then you have the portion that's personally to you. And so each one of us had our own little part that we did because of what they were doing for us. But, and for the tribe to ask Gary and I to do this flag.
That was put out by the Cherokee Phoenix newspaper. And there are thousands and thousands of people in that tribe all over the place.
But this is a picture.
We're not going to do it. Yeah,
This
that was the original.
This is the original flag, how big it was,
Yeah, and
the one I sewed.
there's all the people in there. Everybody wanted a flag, and we weren't in the flag business.
But you went into it now.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, we had-
Just a little bit.
We have banner flags now that the tribal people buy. But, yeah, I mean, it's a huge story. It's like 4 pages of story about it.
That's just one band of the Cherokee, though.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of bands of the Cherokee that use a lot.
Well, if you remember from some of my other speaking, how we were the group that separated and went down into Arkansas and Missouri and
I'm looking at
Okay.
your man there.
and then I have, here's on the front, really.
But that, you know, something that's really interesting about the Chickamaugas, though, as the chiefs went, the first chief of the Chickamaugas was Dragging Canoe. The second chief that came down from that
Are you,
was Chief Bull.
are you sure?
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was, according to what I've been
Yeah.
Linda,
reading.
Oh, yeah.
He was
did
the,
you design the flag, or did they have
No,
one already?
They sent me
that's what that symbol was.
this black and white one right here. That's what they sent me.
Yeah, and that tells
And
all the meaning.
this is signed by, it's for the Chickamauga tribe of Arkansas and Missouri, and it was February 1990, Richard Craker, the shaman, and his Indian name.
That's interesting. Well, I'm a decal printer. That is fantastic.
I did
That
it
right
with the
there,
sewing
she-
machine.
she did a pretty good job of telling what it was all about. But it has a description of everything on there, from the deer hoof that's in the middle.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say anything about that. There's a
That's the
deer.
food source.
Yeah.
The crystal is a deity symbol, which is down there.
But if anybody wants to, each one of these things is what's on here.
Yeah.
The meaning of each thing. There's nothing on here that doesn't have meaning to our tribe.
Okay, Gary, when you did the letters, did you cut them out?
Oh, the letters? Well, it was like, you know, it was easy in a way to do that it was big, let me see,
It was
it's
huge.
about, that seal was about this big, you know, in around. If you take a compass, you can make that circle and make everything symmetrical. And then that is syllabary, which was the talking leaves that, from sequoia. And that, the syllabary is 252 signatures, marks for the Cherokee alphabet. But putting those together as to what they wanted, it was a little trip to do. But
I just seen it.
I was just wondering how you,
we made a decal on
Did
that.
you cut the letters out and put them on, or did you like paint them
I
on?
painted them, I painted them,
You painted them on?
I have
yeah,
a
that's
list.
what I was
Right.
wondering.
traced it
I
and
just seen it too. I
painted
have
it.
a list of the chiefs.
it had, you know, like material type paint. And then the colors of it and all that kind of stuff. One of the big things that they was looking for, what base was you gonna do the flag? The color of the flag itself, it was blue.
But they, on this, original seal, it tells me the colors they want used.
Right,
So,
See, it tells me
right.
they want that gold, they want that red, they want that brown. So the colors were chose by them. But other than that, it was kind of just I'm trying to find out where that, I just seen it too. The list of all the chiefs.
all
and
the
why-
chiefs, yeah.
Yeah, I have the list.
As I
of-
was reading on the Cherokee.
And I think he is, Bose was the,
The check, yeah, he was the next one after Dragon Canoe.
yeah.
And Dragon Canoe, well, Bowles, he was killed down here 13 miles east of Tyler.
Right.
Battle of Natchez.
I just seen it a few minutes ago too. So I know it's in here.
But there'd been other chiefs come down from that since then.
I wasn't that far back. Oh, I hate losing it. I was gonna show it to you.
15 chiefs altogether. Don, I think, is about number 15. Maybe
But
there's
there's,
something else.
there's so much, like, that's, like we all know the colors, you know, the red, the white and the blue and all of those colors that you see things done in. I have a sheet here that tells what each one of those colors mean. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is with the Native Americans, when people want to know something, they think too hard. Because theirs all was very easily picked. Like I was teaching in the high schools in Portland, Oregon, and in a history classes. And I was forever getting these questions. What did such and such tribe use for like bow and arrows or for baskets or whatever they were wanting to know about? And I thought, Linda, you got to quit using your white side of your brain and use your Indian side. I'm making this too difficult. Because I told him when I come back I was going to tell him the answer. Well, I thought about it and thought about it and I thought, oh, it's so simple. If you take a map and you stick your finger on that map and you figure out from the Indian map what tribes in that area, you can tell somebody what everything is made of. Because they used what was right there. So whatever trees grew there was the kind of wood they used, whatever flowers were prominent there is what they used, whatever food source was there, plentiful, that's what they used. So you do that and then you do some research and you'll always be right. Because they didn't go forever to find something, they used what was there.
When we were in Plymouth, Massachusetts, now, Plains Indians had teepees. Okay? Depending on where you were at in the United States as to how they built their house.
That's
And
right.
they built them with what was available. Now, up there in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and the name of the tribe was that long and I never could pronounce it. The guy told me about 8 times, so I never could get my tongue to say it. But we went to some of the old houses there, like they had back in the 1600s. It had huge fireplaces that you could walk in with big fires, and you walk in there, and it was in October, it was drizzling rain, it was cold, You walk in them houses, unless you got right up in front of that fireplace, you'd freeze to death. I mean, then we went into this, I'm not,
Well, I think I should say,
it's like a, huh?
it was a dwelling, we didn't.
Yeah,
try to
Indian
say-
dwelling.
Mhm.
Okay, it was rounded,
Yeah.
and it was rounded on the ends, like Quonset hut.
Mhm.
And it was probably, well, every bit as wide as from here to that wall,
Yeah.
and half, 2/3 of that length. I mean, it was not small. They had benches around, and in the middle, they had just a small fire. I mean, you could put that fire just about in this bag. If you walk in, you take your coat off, it was warm, and from that small fire. It was made out of reeds. They go out there in the beach around the ocean and all, get these reeds, which are hollow. Okay. And they would make mats. And they had several layers of the mats, which they made this building, dwelling out of. But inside, probably about 8 inches inside the walls, they had another heavy mat hanging, and like about that much going to the top and that much going to the floor, which was natural convection. The heat would go up, follow that around, and come back underneath there. And they had benches with furs. You go in and sit down. They tell stories.
Skins on the floor. They had the animal skins on the floor.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as you went
No
in,
matter where you sat.
no matter where you sat, there was no change in temperature around that whole area. It was really wild.
That's kind of like this.
But it was just natural convection. And here they had this little tiny fire. And yet the pilgrims had these huge stone fireplaces that
And still freezing.
10 people could have stood inside of, and they had all their cooking pots and all in there. And you freeze to death in there.
Well, like Mom's family in the Tennessee mountains, they built wood houses with thatch roofs, but they also built these round, big, huge round jobbies, and they had their fire in there, and that's where they did all the cooking. And when it was cold in the wintertime, they sometimes slept in it because it was too cold to sleep in the house, so they'd sleep in it. And other ones that didn't have room enough to sleep in their cooking area would sleep in the caves where they stored everything. They'd go in it because it was a windbreak, so they could build a little fire and stay warm in them. Yeah, it's amazing how they lived, and actually, the more we try to improve things, sometimes the worse we make it. Now here's the chiefs in order. It's Chief Dragon Canoe, born in 1730. He died in March 1st of 1792. And then the next one was Chief John Watts. Young Castle is what he was called. He was half English and half Cherokee. And then, let's see, and see if I can find where he died at. I don't see where he died. Chief John Bowles is the one that's down here. Was born 1756 and killed in Texas on July 16, 1839. And then the next one is Benjamin Green, and then James Green, and then John Neal, Jesse Harris, David Quinn, Beverly Baker. We all know about her. And then Don Cooks. He's the one that was reigning. And now Now that he's gone, it's a woman, it's Kay Stockton, who's our leader now.
So were those family lines,
No,
they were elected?
all elected. Yeah. Yeah, on the West Coast. it's-
Something kind of interesting about that though, and it was wrote, there's a book called, about Chief Bull. There was a lot of the Scottish, intertwined there.
Let me see.
Other books in the history.
Yeah, this doesn't, like with Watts, they took time to say that he
John
was,
Watts.
John Watts, that he was half English and half Cherokee. It doesn't say anything about Dragon Canoe's nationality. But anyhow, there's pictures of my chief here that I painted. And for anybody that hasn't seen them, this is a picture of the actual picture, and these are my paintings, pictures of my paintings. So you're more than welcome to look at them.
Those right there is the seals and what they mean.
Oh, yeah, this
Tree on
is
the
Don
mountain,
Kuntz's
yeah, so-
seal. See, Gary built me a frame, and I call it the shoes to the dress. I painted the pictures, and then Gary made these frames and made a pattern on them. And from visiting with these chiefs, we and them decided what would go on the frame. Okay, the copy of the seal that we were talking about earlier, the flag, and I don't think they can see most of it anyhow. But, oh, okay. Anyhow, this symbol is on every frame. That's Gary's chosen picture. This is the tree on the mountain in the way of a storm. That's his name. And this is the oak leaf that his mother would put out. So that shows my chief's corners of his frame. So there's, actually, it's not just painting a picture of somebody, it's showing the history of somebody, what they did in their lives, who they are, things that was special to them that they shared with us.
You got dragon canoes in there, I think.
His picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that right there, we can tell a whole bunch of stuff about the tribe.
This is my ancestor that I'm enrolled in under,
John Watts.
Mary Ann Hatch. That's my enrollment.
Mary Ann what?
Hash,
Half-size.
yeah, my lineage, my sign lineage is Mary Ann Hash and, yeah, but what was, it's Sizemore family and the Hash family is who I'm enrolled in under. And I keep seeing this little Sizemore church up here, and I keep wanting to stop and ask them, are you related to me? But that's her. And my grandfather.
Thing about dragon canoe, for instance, when you take a look, you try to get the history right, he was known as the Savage Napoleon by the governor of Tennessee.
And then this
And
is,
he said he was a dynamic individual, and he was the first chief of the Chickamaugas. He was
this is a
the war
picture of
chief.
my great-grandma Walker. And I knew her, she was still alive. And she told me that she walked in the Trail of the Tears. And when they started doing the census, they had people standing all around to do these census, and they decided to hurry it up. So everybody, they'd go over and they'd clump up this bunch of people, and this bunch of people, and this bunch of people, and they called her bunch Walker. Her Indian name wasn't put on the census, it was Walker. And she said, most of those people standing beside her, she never seen before in her life. But the census named them Walker. So when you're doing your lineage for Indian, it gets difficult because there may be a Walker that has nothing to do with you. You got to pick through all of it until you find the one really is connected to you. And we had to do it with her. We knew her, and she was alive, you know, when I was a little girl. But what you have to do with some of those that are hard to document is there's one key thing that helps with documentation than anything else, is if you're going through your people, you know, back through your people, the best place to do it is at the Mormon church, because they were allowed to keep the slides. So, and then the other thing is, as you're going back, if you come into what's called Black Dutch, that's Cherokee.
Yeah.
So when you see Black Dutch, you stop right there, find the reservation that's as close to that area as you can find, see what you can find on their documentation. And that's usually the fastest way to find out the connections.
I heard that was the way a lot, when they were rounding up the Indians and taking them to the reservation, a lot of the Indians said they were Black Dutch, so they were not.
Especially the Cherokees, because we were fairer skinned. And they couldn't prove they were Indians because they didn't have a lot of strong Indian features. So they said, I'm Black Dutch, I'm not Indian, so they write them off as Black Dutch.
Another big way of finding people out was Red Cloud census, between the Mormon census and Red Cloud census.
Well, my great grandmother was full of mention, but she didn't talk about any of it.
There was some blood in there, but she didn't know. They said there was some
You know what?
pages, but they don't
You
think
know
they were
Quan
the
Parker.
same ones.
He's a half white man. Yeah. And it's really interesting, you know. We got to know
Picture tells
his
the
last
story.
living grandson.
That's what I was in the
Clifford Clark.
newspaper
He's in there.
when I did his.
And he gave us all the lineage
Every
of his
picture tells the
family.
story.
Got a picture of Quan, and all his wives. He had 7 wives, and they said you're gonna have to get rid of 6 of them.
Seven wives. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
7 wives.
Yep. Hey, they had it made, you know.
One of my great aunts wrote 32 books, and my great grandfather invented the very first turn-in signal for an automobile, which was an arrow out on the fender, and operated by handle. No, it was operated by handle.
I seen a VW the other day on this, that was going through this old barn, and this thing had the signs on it, you know, the old German Beetle. Yeah, I said, hey, that's where that. Nobody from Germany. They probably, yeah.
One of my aunts,
Okay, y'all be careful, I'm gonna
that's
start
all
the car.
the stories.
I'd like to hear you play sometime, by golly. I know you can do it.
Well, let's see, you
Day after
be
tomorrow.
here, let's see, in March, I think, you'll hear me.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, really?
Well,
Okay.
I thought day after tomorrow something was supposed to happen.
No, I
Yeah,
got
they are.
other things, it'll be,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
they gotta be heard, you know?
Well, we're just
This
trying
is
to
our-
learn, so, you know, that's
our
why I
Cherokee.
I'd say, hey, that guy knows how to play. I might run into something.
Oh, you're the wrong guy, you sure you got right.
If you guys want to look at this real
I've
quick,
been annoyed
this
it's
is
not
original
talented.
Cherokee
Just
regalia.
have fun, that's all.
There you
This
go.
is how
That's
they
the
dress.
best thing in the world, right?
What kind of feathers were those? Do we know what kind of feathers?
Turkey.
Turkey feathers.
Oh, these?
Turkey and, what's that other one, the
No,
white bird?
Ingrid.
Ingrid. And turkey was the, they never used eagle feathers.
And that was a
feathers
woman,
ever.
you said?
Huh?
You said that was a woman?
No, that's
No.
a man.
Oh,
That's a chief.
I thought you said it was a woman. I
No,
thought.
I said, this is a
A lot of the
original.
women had a lot of power.
Chickamauga
There were
Cherokee.
women chiefs. Nancy
Ward.
Ward was one of the most renowned chiefs there was.
Really?
Yeah. Yep, so women's equality started way back.
And the Cherokees,
I know,
the Cherokees, the beginning of the Cherokees, as far back as they know of, Onawia, the principal people, that's what the Iroquois called us. And then Tuslogee, people of the caves. That's because they always had caves by their house up in the mountains. So that's those two names, and it's wrote out in the Cherokee syllabary. Then I have a picture of the actual Cherokee territory.
These territories change though throughout the years.
But doesn't that look a lot different what you see at Powwow's?
Where were these guys from? Well, you know what?
Yeah.
The Sioux came from the East Coast. But when all the history went out, they were
Are you
in the
filming it?
Midwest.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
The
That's
Comanches were, they were,
That's our bass.
they were nomads.
Yeah.
They
Doesn't
had
that look like a
teepees.
Hitler?
Yeah, they had
Doesn't that look
teepees,
like Hitler's?
portable
Right.
Look like what?
lodges.
Like
and all
Hitler's
this kind of
flag?
Oh, really?
That's what we're
That's our Cherokee,
familiar with, is
our Cherokee bags.
Comanche
teepees
land?
being
Baskets.
broken down and
Oh, I see this one
homes
still
that
there.
were
Yeah.
put together following the buffalo.
Right,
I
right.
go, wow, they had that in there?
Comanches, Kiowas,
This is how they lived.
anyhow,
That's
from
actual-
different times
that's
in
how
history.
the
There are
Cherokees
people
lived.
from different places. So, I checked into it because of, if you do some lineage history, they say, well, where's this guy from? Well, he's from down there, and he's in Arizona. No, he started out in Illinois, you know, and it took maybe 100 years. That's right, that's right. That's right.
Now, see, this is the Plains people's dress on this Cherokee gal.
I'll tell you, when you start getting into the history of the people, I had a guy tell me he did a book called The Unconquered. And this guy's name was Carol Howell, and he was in from Plymouth, Florida.
My aunt, my great aunt wrote this. It's a
And
cake
he
for the
says,
Sioux.
I'll tell you
It's
what,
a
he said,
story
when you
that
go digging into
happened to her when she
history,
was a little girl, and she wrote about it.
be real careful.
called A
He
Cake
said,
for
I've
the
had
Sioux.
threats on my life because he said something that one part of the family said, and the other part didn't agree with it. And he was putting that out there. He's gone now, this guy. But his book was on The Unconquered, which was the Modoc. There's 26 tribes in the Oregon area there. And he said, really be careful. He said, it's interesting, it really is, you know.
But there's just,
These English
I have so much information trying to share it all. It's really, this is just one of 4 books. I said, this is only one of 4 books.
I see.
I have it on individuals, I have it on, this one here is mostly me and Gary and my tribe. This book is.
You didn't have anything on Dragon Meat.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
This is,
got one for it, it's in
yeah,
there.
there's a couple jokes, cowboy.
I don't know.
Indian humor.
Be careful.
I gotta see. Okay, there's that cool.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you. This
Here
is,
we go.
this is years and years of work right
This
here.
is,
Yeah.
I was telling, that's one of 3 books.
checking this out about Dragon Meat. That was the picture that was done.
I'm ready. Y'all be careful, enjoy it.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. A Little Cedar Mountain story, Dragon Canoe and the Chipmunk Carriage.